Hello, Contrarians listeners. Here we are, reaching you from the United States of Dystopia, formerly known as the United States of America, a land where masked men have been empowered by the government to harass, kidnap, and exile immigrants, regardless of their immigration status. A land where the people in power encourage hatred and cruelty toward minorities. A land where a normal person, a person with empathy, a person with basic human decency, can feel overwhelmed by all the bullshit the current administration keeps throwing at us.
So that's why we're here. That's what we're doing with these special episodes. We're here to tell you, no, you're not crazy. It really is that bad. And also to tell you, you're not alone. We're here with you. And maybe, hopefully, make you feel a little better by talking about good movies that are relevant to this nightmare we're living through.
So welcome to Fresh Immigrants, Rotten Fascists, a new Contrarian series. Today, we're going to be talking about 1984. Welcome to the sixth installment of Fresh Immigrants, Rotten Fascist, FIRF. And this one, Alex, as I warned you, this is a dark one. This one is it's a little on the dark side, a little on the depressing side. I think that so far we've had, I'm not going to say lighthearted picks. We've done movies that actually dealt with a lot of heartbreak, but overall they were, there was hope in them, and there was, there were things that we could cling to as far as goodness and humanity and so on. Not so much with the movie we're covering today, a movie that I've seen twice now, and I might not watch it ever again in my lifetime.
Yeah. Did you say you have the Criterion?
I do. Blind buy.
Ah.
But, you have Criterions too, Alex, or not even Criterions movies sometimes that you just have them in the collection, but just to have them there.
No, we talked about it. I had a couple Godards that I'm never probably going to watch again, but they have to stay on the shelf just to, give me credibility.
Right. People come to your house, they start looking at your movies and like, Godard, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, they see 1984 at the very beginning of my Criterion collection because, it's number one. 1984, not spine number one.
Okay.
I'm not a maniac like you. Okay, if you were going to do them alphabetically, like I do, like most people do, Alex, would you put the numbers at the end or at the beginning? Like numbers before the alphabet or after?
Yeah, and numbers become before the alphabet, yeah.
Or would you do the letter N? Because I think they spell it out.
Yeah, well, this one is spelled out. It's kind of weird. The movie's logo, like if you look at the poster and shit, it's stylized as 1984, and like on Tubi where I watched it was 1984. But like, if you're looking it up on the internet or like its Wikipedia page or it's I believe it's IMDb page, it's spelled out 1984. Obviously, well, I don't know if obviously, Julio, were you aware there was another film adaptation in 1956 of this?
Yes, I found that out today. When I was done with the movie, I was browsing just a little bit of trivia and I realized that there was a previous version, which, I guess...
The Doc is in it.
Our Doc? Halloween's Doc?
Donald Pleasance, yep. He plays Parsons.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm kind of fascinated to look this up. The big thing, my understanding is that the 56 version kind of takes the ball and runs with it and is based more like futuristically, as opposed to what we watch today, which is more direct to the book of just like immediate post-World War II. So, yeah, I'm interested. It's an hour and a half. It's free on Plex. So, might fire it up here in the next few days.
So the 50s version is Donald Pleasance running around shooting Big Brother and Big Brother's minions.
No. Yeah. I shot Big Brother 6 times. And of course, just so we don't forget this, both films, and the one, for the purposes of what we're discussing today, the 1984, released in 1984, based off of the dystopian novel by George Orwell, which was released in 1949.
Do you have any familiarity with George Orwell, Alex?
In name. That's about it.
When you were in school, did they make you read Animal Farm? So I didn't grow up here, but that's kind of what I assumed.
Yes, there you go. We did read Animal Farm in 8th grade, I want to say. I was trying to remember if I had to read 1984 in college, and I couldn't, because my sister saw me watching the movie, and she was like, "Oh, she was talking about how she heavily prefers the book to the the movie. Yeah, I definitely remember
Your
Animal
sister
Farm.
with the film Twitter. No, I guess it would be the book Twitter
Yeah.
opinion. Well,
I mean, yeah, we'll see. There's things to discuss here with this one. But George Orwell, Animal Farm, yes, was a 8th grade. I think Mrs. Bauer, our English teacher, whose class we read it in.
I mean, that's pretty depressing on its own.
Oh, yeah. I mean, George Orwell, he didn't write The Notebook or anything. I don't think he was known for his uplifting romps and tales of love.
I mean, this is kind of a love story.
Sure.
Set against a horrific dystopian backdrop, but still, I have read Animal Farm. That's the only Orwell I'm familiar with. Not in school. I was visiting my uncle, I think, one time, and he just handed me the book. He's like, here. He had it in English. I don't know why. But he was like, you read English, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, here you go. And it's a short book. I don't know if you remember. It's more like a novella, I guess. And
did he put his pinky up to mock you when he asked you if you read English?
He had 2 books. It was probably The Notebook in Spanish and 1984 in English. So I chose my destiny. No, and I read it, and I was kind of bummed after, because it's, not to spoil Animal Farm, but the bad guys win, basically.
Yeah.
In a very depressing reflection of reality, and much like 1984. So I was like, all right, is this what growing up is? You just read stuff that makes you sad? And a little bit, yeah.
Can be, yeah.
Yeah.
You read the news.
Exactly. So I was never in a hurry, even though I knew that I had read something that was good and that was smart and it had resonance in real life and so on. I was never in a hurry to read any more Orwell or to even read Animal Farm again, because I just found it to be such a bummer. But I knew about 1984 because I think even if you don't know about 1984, you know about Big Brother, or you know about the term Big Brother and how it's just become like a pop culture thing. And of course, there's now the reality show Big Brother.
Yep.
It's just become that term that is, if you're talking about surveillance from the government specifically, Big Brother. And at some point, I couldn't tell you when was the first time that I heard 1984 referenced as something that has to do with that, right? Like the totalitarian government that is just constantly spying on citizens and controlling every little bit of their lives and so on. And so even though I'd never read 1984, I never watched 1984, I had a pretty good idea of what 1984 was about. And once I found out that it was written by George Orwell and that the movie was based on a novel by George Orwell, I was like, I don't know when, if ever, I would make the time to watch it. And then, you get older and you're like, well, I'm curious now. So I bought the Criterion a few years ago. And then I watched it at that time, had a pretty strong reaction to it. And like I just said, that was a one-timer, except that now it just seemed to fit this little project we're embarked on. So I was like, all right, why suffer by myself?
Yeah, thanks.
Take your places, please. Right. Let's see which one of us can touch his toes. Right over from the hips, brothers and sisters, please.
So what did you know going into this, Alex? I mean, you knew Big Brother.
Yeah, I guess I had just heard of this movie and that was it. I didn't really know anything about it. I didn't know any of the players involved. It played out, I think probably the only time we're going to use the word comedically in this episode, that Richard Burton is in it, as we just recorded our Exorcist 2 commentary track a few days ago, and we just lamented the lack of effort and fucks he gives in that movie. And here he's in execution, one of the more chilling parts of the movie. I knew the idea of the story, and that's about it. I can't say I was overly familiar with the source material. It's not like if I had never seen The Wizard of Oz. This isn't a movie that you can't escape from like a pop culture perspective. Just again, from a literary standpoint, I remember it being discussed in college. Probably had to do in one of my like media ethics classes or something like that about, controlling the media and shit. So that would be it. Like there was no visuals I saw in this movie, and obviously the phrase Big Brother, like you said, but there was no like scenes or visuals or any happenings I saw in this movie that was like, oh, that's what this is from. Okay.
Do you remember when V for Vendetta came out?
Okay. I was going to ask you, what the deal is there, because obviously I've never seen V for Vendetta, but again, as far as like pop culture imagery goes, Natalie Portman getting her head shaved is not unlike John Hurt in this movie. So are there supposed to be clear homages?
Yes, because John Hurt is also in V for Vendetta, but in that movie, he is part of the government. So he's a bad guy there. Yeah. I don't remember if he is the equivalent of Big Brother in V for Vendetta, or if it's, or he's just one of the, I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I read the book or the graphic novel or watched the movie, but in V for Vendetta, it's, the organization is like I think, is it a hand? And then it's just each operative is a finger, or is it like the head and then there's the hand and the legs? I don't remember, but John Hurt is part of that organization. And so everybody, I remember at the time, were like, hey, remember that's the very weird chainsaw. Remember how John Hurt was a good guy in 1984 and now he's a bad guy in a movie that certainly tackles the same themes in a way, because V for Vendetta is also about fighting the power, except it's more of a, has a superhero tinge to it. I can't believe you haven't seen it. That was a big deal.
Yeah, just never did. I do have. The screenplay was by the Wachowskis. All right, yeah. I do have somewhere in my copious amounts of shit the V for Vendetta now on DVD pin that from the summer I worked at Blockbuster. I have that somewhere.
Did you have to earn that one, or did everybody get one?
Oh no, you're a walking billboard. Here you go.
All right. Well, still, if we ever get around to recording a V for Vendetta episode, either for FIRF or for the main feed or whatever, I expect
to be honest with you. I think a big thing I was repelled by the time period in which it came out. I've always said the biggest compliment I can pay to Anchorman as a movie is how funny it is that it wasn't ruined for me by like fraternities and shit, because that's when I was a freshman in college when that movie came out, and how everything was like, it was that and Talladega Nights, and then the imagery from V from Vendetta, was everywhere on college campus and shit, and it was just like referenced by everybody. So I think I was repelled by it, but that's I'm embarrassed to say how long ago that was. So maybe it's been enough time that I can give it a shot.
I mean, anybody that knows the release date of the movie can figure it out.
Ryan frantically Googling right now. Old.
Well, I was not repelled. I was curious because I had read the graphic novel. Like I said, Alan Moore wrote it. And so it's no Watchmen, but it's funny because I remember reading the graphic novel and I was like you, I was much younger and being confused by the message. It was like, is this movie actually advocating for anarchy? And then I was curious to see if the movie was going to delve more into that or maybe clear up that, because I wasn't going to read the graphic novel again. So I wanted I figured that the movie was going to be a more digestible version of the graphic novel. And it is. And some people will tell you that that's a bad thing. And some people will tell you that that's exactly what the world needed. I can't tell you without rewatching it. So like I said, maybe we'll get to it at some point. Hopefully you can get over your hangups. It's been long enough, Alex.
I just told you I can. All right.
Yeah. Well, 1984, on the other hand, I don't think that it's a mainstream version of the book.
You think?
I don't think that they were interested in just appealing to the masses, maybe dumbing it down a little bit.
Do you know anything else that this fella, Michael Radford's done?
Yes, I looked quickly through his filmography. I've seen one other movie of his. I don't know, you might have been too young for this, but do you remember Il Postino? The Postman? Mm-hmm. But not the Kevin Costner Postman.
Oh, wait. Is that what the Kevin Costner movie was based on?
No. Oh, okay. Which it would be hilarious if it was.
I got real excited. Yeah.
No. Kevin Costner's Postman, which I haven't seen, but I know of, is a science fiction movie where he's a postman in a post-apocalyptic future, and someday we'll do it because I guess it bombed hard with critics and audiences. But no, the artsy Postman, Il Postino, is an Italian movie. Well, but this dude's British, so I don't know how that plays out. But pretty sure, I mean, Il Postino, that's Italian.
I saw a couple other movies he did were foreign languages that weren't British because they might as well be foreign to me.
Well, Il Postino is set in, I don't know, it's a period piece, and the poet Pablo Neruda. I think that's him. He's a supporting character, and Il Postino is the postman, just like this humble postman that becomes friends with this well-known poet. Like it's, I don't know if this is based on a real story, but the poet himself, I mean, he's a real person, and it's just basically the story of their friendship. And it's kind of a cute movie from what I remember, and then the ending is devastating, so I've never wanted to watch it again.
That's fair.
So Radford is 2 for 2 as far as my enjoyment of his movies. Are you familiar with anything else he's done?
No, but damn, that was a perfect setup. There's a incredible, everything's a Simpsons reference. An amazing, from the Bart Sells His Soul episode, an amazing moment where Lisa says, because Bart can't laugh. That's when he realizes his soul's gone. And Lisa says to him, she's like, Bart, Pablo Neruda said that laughter is the language of the soul. And Bart just deadpans and looks her in the eyes and goes,
I am familiar with the works of Pablo Neruda.
So that was a perfect setup for me to say, no, but I am familiar with the works of Pablo Neruda. So, no, yeah, I didn't know anything else. I just skimmed his filmography before we hopped on here.
Well, I was barely familiar with Radford. We are fairly familiar with John Hurt on the main feed. Mm-hmm. We cover Snowpiercer, and of course we talk about Alien and the Alien franchise a lot. And he's kind of one of the most memorable bits in the first movie. He's just basically, he's a well-known actor.
He was the Elephant Man.
Was he the Elephant Man?
I thought so.
I thought it was Bradley Cooper.
Oh, shut up. Yeah. I always associate Anthony Hopkins with that movie, but he's the
doctor,
surgeon,
right?
Yeah, in that. So John Hurt is the guy who says, "I'm a human being," So
he has lines in this movie that are akin to that,
I guess.
And Burton's like, "Nope, you're not."
His 2 Academy Award nominations preceded this movie, by the way.
What were they for? Elephant Man
and Midnight Express.
Haven't seen it either.
Dennis Condrey, Bobby Eaton, great tag team. Midnight Express. Yeah.
And John Hurt, just
he carried a tennis racket on the outside, and he was their manager. Joe is somewhere just feverishly pumping his fist right now.
Well, watching him here, Alex, in 1984, do you think that he is somebody like what's the name of the Exorcist? Who's Father Marin?
Max von Sydow?
Yeah, is he like Max von Sydow, somebody who's always being old? Because this is young John Hurt.
He's old as shit in this movie.
But we've seen him older, obviously.
God damn, pal. He was younger than you are right now in this movie. And you look like one of Tim Allen's sons in Home Improvement compared to him in this movie, man. So, yeah, he was born old. Okay.
In his defense, in the context of the movie, I think that kind of living would take a toll.
Oh yeah,
your appearance.
And there's a moment in the movie, there's a sequence in the movie where we don't exactly know how much time has elapsed.
Right.
Yeah, and he looks like shit. He's so bad, in fact, that fucking Richard Burton can just walk up and pull his teeth out with just with his index finger and thumb. Not talking pliers or anything.
It's awful. It's definitely one of the.
It's where I'm at right now.
The high points of the movie.
I found it fucking at Walgreens. They had a bag of gummy candy, Halloween size, like for $3. That was the worst mistake I've made in the past 5 years, man. I've just been nursing that thing all week. I look like fucking John Hurt in this movie now.
With the double speak and the super big or whatever. I wrote it down. I've got some of their words there. Anyway, Richard Burton, like you said, he's here again. After our dismissal of his performance for Exorcist 2, he came to play with this movie. And then that's it, Alex. That's where I stopped counting. I don't know anybody else in this movie.
Susanna Hamilton, I looked up her name, looks like someone I thought I would know from something. There is mainly because all white people look the same, but there's a conglomerate of actors in the 80s and 90s that you just see. This happens all the time with us on this show. You see them, you'll be like, I feel like I know them from somewhere. And then you don't. And she's one of them. And not like she's fucking doing some Meryl Streep Sophie's Choice performance in this movie or anything. But you see this and you're like, yeah, I probably should know her from something else. But I looked up her filmography. Not that deep. Since this movie, she's done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 films. So she's obviously not someone. It looks like her television career was a bit more expansive. And also, she's an English actress. So if she's just doing TV shows over there, how the hell am I supposed to see them,
Come on. It's not like we have globalized media or anything. Well, I think she looks a little bit like Juliette Binoche. So maybe that's what's throwing you off.
It could, yeah. But I'd be like, hey, that's Juliette Binoche from Dan in Real Life.
Yes, Academy Award winner. All right. Well, that's that. Those are the players basically, and then there's a bunch of miserable people in the sense that they are miserable. They lead miserable lives. Some very much aware of it, and some not. But watching it, Alex, I had echoes of other movies. I know I've told you about the first George Lucas movie. It's TXH-138 maybe, or THX-138. It's a science fiction movie that is very cold, very detached. It's not Star Wars-y at all, but it features Robert Duvall. Speaking of Donald Pleasence, he's in it, and it mostly follows Robert Duvall as he leads this life inside this compound where everything is regulated, and much like in this movie, they're trying to get rid of sexual desire, and he kind of rebels against that, and the movie is his journey as he tries to escape this place, and it's a little more action-packed than this movie, than 1984. It's also a lot more confusing to watch. It's I much like 1984, I wouldn't watch it again, but that's mostly because I didn't really enjoy it. But there is that setting of the dystopian future where everything is being controlled by the higher powers. And then I also thought of Hunger, Alex, which you own, right? Did I get you the Criterion? Is that how you own it?
That sounds right. But yes, I do own the Criterion.
Have you watched it yet?
Oh, yeah.
Because I wouldn't blame you if you hadn't.
That's I was going to say that's a good movie, but it's obviously a fucking hard watch. Last year, so I watched it one time. Then remember last year, like walking in the living room, my sister had plucked it off the shelf and put it on, and I was just like, "Oof!" But I did end up sitting down, like watching the last 45 minutes of it. Have you only seen that movie once?
Yes.
So the second time around, by and large, I was like, "Man, this was a really good movie," as opposed to the second time I watched Shame, where I was like, "God damn it, Eddie was right. This isn't that good."
I don't want to derail us, so I will keep my shame defense to myself. But go. Hunger, you're talking about captives being tortured, and there's, this movie that the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes, they're basically, it's just an extended torture sequence. And I was thinking of that because I had that feeling watching Hunger, where it's part of me was thinking, I get it. Can we move on? Mm-hmm. And then the other part of me was saying, no, I get it. The whole point is just feeling it, right? You have to, if we move on, then you're kind of shortchanging the suffering. You have to sit here with this. And
that is, that's like every credible review or piece I've ever read on that movie, Come and See, that has kind of scared me away from ever watching that movie. I know I have to one day. Do you know which movie I'm talking about?
I thought I did, and I realized no. I was thinking of Talk to Her, Bring Her Back. The follow-up from people that did Talk to Me.
No. Come and See is a Soviet anti-war movie. I guarantee if you looked up the Criterion cover, you would know what I'm referencing. But it's...
Oh, Alex, I have it on our list of potential movies for FIRF.
Okay, well, I don't know. It's supposed to be one of those movies that changes you. We're here already. When I was at Barnes & Noble the other day for the Criterion sale, I saw someone with their friend there. It might have been their girlfriend or whatever, but they picked up the Come and See and they pointed at it and made the face whew. They had seen it. And, but anyway, this feels like a discussion we've had with some of the Rob Zombie movies we've done and other horror movies that we've done of the thing I detest Cannibal Holocaust because it's a similar thing of yeah, I get it. It's gross and grotesque and violent, or it's sexual violence. I understand what you're doing, but you circle back to other movies like this, and Come and See, and Hunger is a good example of if your intent with your movie is to show real suffering to further the impact of your movie and not just to shock and awe, there is some merit in that. The problem is, and I think we're going to talk about this a little bit with this movie, the how that connects does fall into the eye of the beholder. You know what I mean? Because I can find something to have artistic merit. Man, we just talked about hunger and shame, so why not bring 12 Years a Slave into it, the Steve McQueen trilogy? There's some stuff in that movie that I fully understand its impact, and it's like its reasoning and its fucking mirror that it turns, on its audience in some parts, rightfully so. But I wasn't like coming out of that being like, man, I can't wait to watch that again or ever again. You know what I mean?
It might take a long time, but don't give up hope. Everyone is cured sooner or later. And in the end, we shall shoot you.
There is a fine line between the horror of watching something and then maybe as a defense mechanism, instantly trying to fight and escape and out of it by trying to laugh at it, which I think is what happens, because I know we have in the past joked about things, in movies that have shocked us that they were not funny at the time that you're watching them in the context of watching the movie.
Yeah.
Right. But then when you remove yourself from it, or you're talking about it later, I mean, a way to deal with it is just by trying to find not the comedy in it, but trying to come at it from a comedic way. Like the idea that in 5 years, we're going to reference if somebody loses a tooth, we're going to call it like, we're going to make a 1984 reference. That kind of thing. I think that is a way that we deal with like this sort of extreme sensations that a movie like 1984 or Hunger or what have you, can do. And that's like the good way of doing it. But you can also make fun of the ones that do it badly. And I was just thinking about it because 12 Years a Slave, I haven't seen it since it came out, but
Same.
I remember it was one of the things of acknowledging how horrifying it was and also just trying to not find the comedy, but again, the idea that, oh yeah, that's Paul Dano playing like a really racist slave owner. Like, it's like a dark comedy outside of the movie.
Yeah. So, I remember we made like in the manager's office, we had to find some comedy in the situation. So I remember just being like, it was really weird. His scene was a musical because he sings like this horrifying song to these people that he's, ordering what to do and whatnot. And the most gratifying part of that movie is when fucking Chiwetel Ejiofor beats the shit out of him. That's so awesome. But yeah, you're exactly right. There's, and here with this, this is just so nasty. Like from the and it's supposed to be, and the presentation, it's just everything's gross and depressing. All the colors, like everyone's very obviously unhygienic, and it's so sad. And then that's even before we get to like the elongated torture sequences and basically, the electroshock therapy of how dare you have an independent thought. And so now we're going to have to, literally torture you back into shape.
It's just the setup. Just the setup is nasty enough, and then it gets bad. Alex, we've made it this far, and we haven't even given a synopsis because we got carried away.
We did.
Do you want to hit people with the synopsis, and we can tell them if we recommend the movie, and then get it a little more spoilery?
I think we both have literally said not going to watch it again, so I think that sets a bit of a table. Okay. A man loses his identity while living under a repressive regime. In a story based on George Orwell's classic novel, Winston Smith, John Hurt, is a government employee whose job involves the rewriting of history in a manner that casts his fictional country's leaders in a charitable light. His trysts with Julia, Susanna Hamilton, provide his only measures of enjoyment, but lawmakers frown on the relationship. That's one way of putting it. And in this closely monitored society, there is no escape from Big Brother. Okay, so there's some things that we're going to jump into here in a minute that I find relevant and, I can see that are applicable now. And it's amazing that they nailed it 40 years ago, much less what's 75 years ago, 76. This movie is not like an enjoyable experience at all. And to be truthful, there's stretches of it I find pretty boring. And there's just no winning. And I think at a younger age, I know for a fact at a younger age, I had a higher tolerance for really depressing movies. And there's still some depressing movies that I fucking love, but you got to hit just right. And this doesn't for me. The acting's really good. It's effective. But if someone just asked me, should I watch this? I would probably start by asking, have you seen this movie? And then list about 1,000 movies before this. Just because there's really no winning with this. Understand its significance, agree with its message. It's just, okay, so like a good example would be, some of these war movies we talk about. Saving Private Ryan's a great example. God, that movie's depressing as fuck. But it's so outstanding in what it accomplishes and how it's executed that I would be like, yeah, you should watch this. This is not that outstanding of a film to warrant how depressing it is, I guess is what I would say.
I can see that. At the same time, I think that, like, I'm with you. We've said it more than once now. Neither of us would watch this again. And both of us seem to be pretty aware of the message, and we agree with it, and we acknowledge how important it is and all that stuff. But I think that before I recommended it to anyone, I think that I would have a little conversation and try to evaluate, is this something that is going to just ruin your day? Which I guess, it should anyway, because it's that kind of movie. But you know what I mean? Like, once you get to know someone, you can be like, all right, this is not going to go to waste on this person. It's, I don't know if, I don't know about my tolerance for depressing stuff, but a younger version of me just wouldn't have had the patience to get anything out of this movie. Whereas like now I do, so I can, me in my 20s, I might have thought that this was just like, it was too much, too slow, to where's the plot, where's the story, and so on. So but I have friends, you're one of them, where I would be like, no, I know you're gonna get something out of it, even if you don't like it, or you don't like it too much. So I think that would be, unfortunately, this is not one of those where I can just issue a blanket recommendation, or as close to a blanket recommendation as I could. But I think it's a good movie, and I think that when you're ready for it, if you're ready for it and you're willing to, like, you can get a lot out of it, even if it is just that recognition of like, holy shit, all those years ago, they already knew that we were going to fuck ourselves in the future. Humanity is broken and rotten, and who knows what's going to happen next. So I guess that's about as close to a recommendation that I can get to. I think, Alex, I want to jump straight to the end, though, because you said that this was the depressing and there's no winning, and I agree. At the same time, as I was watching the credits roll, my last note is hope and a question mark. How do you read that final shot? Is it him telling us, in the movie telling us, that John Hurt is still himself, like deep down? Because
I think it's you can't truly break the human spirit, and yeah, that's hopeful.
Or is it even more depressing because he's still himself, but he has no hope, of being himself really in that world?
I mean, if you want to read deep into it, it's like, it's not going to be him, but someone will come along that's able to, lead a revolution or, force change or something. Yeah, it's horrifically depressing because he's just stuck. That whole last scene is awful. She comes in and just, they so casually explain to each other that they turned each other in and turned on each other. And it's just, oh man, this was a beating.
I told them all about you. I'm only thankful they got me before it was too late.
Yes, I told them about you too. Thought crime. Sex crime, all your treachery.
If you wanted to be extra positive, you could maybe try to assume that if he hasn't been completely broken, then maybe she hasn't been completely broken. And they're just putting on a show, right? Because she does say we should see each other again, or we should meet again.
Yeah.
And he says yes. And there's like a half-second hesitation that made me wonder, is he thinking, oh, she wants to see me again because there's still something between us, So, yeah, I mean, we could just write a whole fanfic about what happens in 1985.
Oh, yeah.
The love story continues. It is a beating, and not just because of what's worse, Alex, seeing the 20-minute plus torture that John Hurt goes through at the end, or seeing the equivalent of Fox News just constantly broadcasting throughout the entire movie, and you thinking, holy shit, it's just like a cable channel that's just constantly spitting out propaganda and distorting the truth. And
you realize how many people just watch that shit 24/7. Like right now. I lost a friend, man, to that shit. It's been a bummer. He just started watching that all the time. Now he just talks about J.D. Vance being the 48th president and shit. And it's just like, man, this is a bummer. More depressingly, and like, I think Instagram's become really detrimental to my mental health. And I'd done that thing where I'd limit the time that you spend on it. But it, like any other social media app, what's happened is it started to get like inundated with like, you're scrolling, it's like food, football, I don't know, some music shit. Oh, someone getting shot in the head. Like, you know, there's just stuff on Instagram now that the accessibility to real violence is obvious. It's much like pornography, has never been easier. And you think about like me, like, man, I shouldn't see that shit. And much like this movie, there's that part where they line the townspeople up and show them just execution style, right? They're just shooting all these people that, you know, dared to speak out against them or who oppose them. And there's like kids there and shit. And so you think about now with little kids who have fucking cell phones and iPads, if I can see that, they can too, you know, if no one's paying attention, you know what I mean? So it's, and the little kids, the most time we get to spend with any little kids in this movie, what do they say? They say he's a thought criminal. Like they just are so brainwashed. Yeah, it's terrifying. And it's not, you know, the government is not necessarily piping in broadcasts into our homes to tell us what to do, but we're 2 steps removed from what happens in this movie. And it's, and what happens in the story of 1984. And it's upsetting and it's very depressing. And I think that's why watching this, I was like, man, you know, at least Wally has some charm to it. It's like, I know we're all going to be like morbidly obese and, you know, never get off our screens again. But look at Wally. Him and Eva are falling in love. It's all good.
We'll be having a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Here it's just like, man, yeah, I'd be right there with John Hurt. And it's like, oh, he doesn't know what a tree is. Fuck.
Well, I think if anybody failed to see the reflection of the nonstop feeds in 1984 versus our nonstop feeds in social media today and cable news, at this point, everything is, you know, just media in general.
Content. That's all everything is.
Content. But specifically, I guess social media or media used to spread propaganda, and just the fact that it's just 24/7 now and it's relentless. And I had that realization. Oh man, when was it? Whenever I want to say the first time there was a big scandal about Facebook, just posting propaganda. Was it Russian propaganda? Was it Republican propaganda? Whatever. You know, when they were saying, hey, this misinformation, these articles are not true and so on, are showing up on people's feeds and they're shaping the election. It must have been around the time of the first Trump win, so maybe 2016 or so. You know, it was like a big scandal. It was like Facebook had allowed, like, you know, their algorithm to be used that way. And I remember thinking that is unfortunate, but that doesn't affect me. I can see how it affects other people, but it doesn't affect me because I'm smart enough to not really allow myself to be manipulated that way. And while that was true on one level, as the years went by and I became a little more aware of how social media in general was affecting me, I was like, okay, so maybe it doesn't manipulate me in a very obvious manner, but it's a little bit of what you were talking about, you know, like there is a wear and tear on your brain and your psyche when you're exposed to something repeatedly over and over. And, you know, it's not necessarily that you believe a fake headline, but maybe you get used to it. And there's also, you know, you can develop anxiety. You can start maybe doubting things that you thought were true. The point is, it's not healthy. And I could tell. I started realizing that, okay, so I am not falling for it the way that, you know, a lot of people traditionally fell for it, but it is affecting me.
It's like the AI shit now. It's like, I don't fall for it, but you're exactly right. It affects me because I get mad about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's at a point where you just don't know. When you're watching something, you're like, is this true? And while you should always question if something you see online is true, there is also just a psychological effect that is not good, and it weakens you as a human being. And I think that is part of what you see here. I mean, when you catch up with humanity in 1984, we are way down the path of just being absolutely ruined by misinformation. But that's where they are. Like they can't even fathom all this propaganda not being true.
They got that right. The problem is we have too much sugar. The sugar isn't scarce.
Yes. There you go. And tea, every now and then, the luxury of having a little bit of tea.
Dude, when it was cold last week, I started my morning with a green tea. It was heavenly.
Were you naked like John Hurt before he takes his tea here?
No. I've never considered that, though. But knowing my dumb ass, I'd spill the fucking kettle on my wiener or something, man.
Well, so I think that is chilling when you watch a potential future. I mean, I'm not saying that that's going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen like next year. I mean, it might. The machinery is getting certainly a lot more powerful, but just the idea that humanity created this way of defeating itself by creating this environment that allows our minds to be beaten down into submission. And that's what you see. I mean, John Hurt says it at one point, and then it comes back towards the end, right? That he thinks that maybe the proletariat, the normies, they have the numbers, like they could rise, there could be a revolution. That's the hope. But at the same time, Burton tells him like it's never going to happen because we have them.
Or perhaps you return to your old idea that the proletarians will arise. Put it out of your mind. They're helpless animals. Humanity is the party.
We have the system that allows us to control them. And it's just nonstop bullshit being broadcast over and over. And that's how I feel if I log into Twitter, like the rare occasions where I log on to Twitter and actually like look at the feed. I'm like, holy shit, this is just so much garbage, But there are people that just like stuck to it. Like those people that live to argue on social media, they're like on a track to like just losing their minds, like their sanity. So it's not healthy. And I guess bring up all this because that would be something that I would tell somebody if I'm recommending 1984. I'm like, if you haven't considered the psychological effect of that type of like nonstop 24/7 propaganda, like this movie, I think illustrates it in a way. And that's not even like the main point it's making, but I think that it's there in the background and it's there all the time. It's kind of like when, speaking of one-timers, what's the Aronofsky movie about drugs?
Oh, Jesus. Requiem for a Dream.
Requiem for a Dream, which I must have seen actually. Yep. I probably, as much as that's a one-timer, I've seen it probably like 4 different times because every time I wanted to show it to someone, so I would watch it with them. And my thought was always, this movie's really nasty and it's really depressing and it's a bummer, like 1984 is a bummer, but there's value in watching it beyond, the production did.
And the argument I would also make for revisiting that is there is a little bit more to get invested in with the characters in that. Whereas here, obviously we want John Hurt and Julia, Susanna Hamilton to, buck the system and get out in some way, but we don't know who they are or like, we don't know much about them. So there's not much to invest in outside of, these are the characters we're following in this movie. Requiem for a Dream. Hunger is another example too of we get to know these characters a little bit more and there's a little bit more to invest in. This is just bleak. And it's the story of the situation, not necessarily of characters.
Yes, I saw, and actually I'll get to it in a minute because I have some quotes, but there's one that mentioned that this movie is just atmosphere, which is, that's the way to go.
Brother.
Just to close on Requiem for a Dream, though, what I was going for is just that movie is like the perfect PSA against drugs. I think that if the person is receptive to it, that makes the perfect case against, beware of addiction. And then the movie, tells you why, much like 1984, I think, is beware of propaganda. and just learn to be discerning on what you consume, what you put in your brain.
The joke I was going to make earlier in like the early 2000s, probably till like what, 03 or 04, whenever Britney started kind of, having her famed, quote unquote meltdowns. That was like the joke. I remember that being like a line that people used. If someone says like, well, where'd you hear that? Or like, you're talking with your buddies at the lunch table and you're like, oh man, if you do this cheat code in this video game, you can fly something, And I remember specifically one time, No Mercy, the wrestling game, someone's like, I read if you enter this code, you can have a Hell in a Cell match. And we're like, bullshit, you can't do that. And someone was like, where'd you hear that? He goes, I read it on the internet. And it was, yeah, well, I also saw Britney Spears naked on the internet, implying that anything you read on the internet, question, because it could be fake, And that, for those who, Jesus, I don't know if people this young listen to this, but that was also a big thing in the original days of the internet, back in the dial-up days. Fake images of celebrities nude, which now, Jesus, with AI, that's the whole fucking point. Yeah, you can't. But the whole point is like, you go back at they're like fucking MS Paint. They just like crop someone's head onto some Playboy centerfold. But the whole point is, the joke back in the day was anything you read on the internet, take it with a grain of salt.
And now?
Now it should be, don't believe 90% of the things you read on the internet, but an internet troll is president,
Yeah.
Like I just, the people that we oppose politically, Julio, you would show them this movie and they would be like, well, I'd never fall for that. And those are the people that, are sharing all these AI videos of veterans. And, I'm not making fun of veterans, but I think of all the stuff that is like the big AI bait that is, child sex trafficking, cops doing good things, veterans doing good things, which again, not to say that doesn't exist, but that is like AI Facebook bait. You know what I mean? And so propaganda doesn't necessarily have to be, I think that's something people lose sight of. It's not something yelling in your face, obey. Yeah. Like that's not what propaganda is. That's getting to discussions / arguments with my dad often about like, because I think he just thinks that is what propaganda is something that just says, here, say hello to your new God. It's like, no, but if you're raised in a time where all the news coverage isn't this thing great? You might even subconsciously start to, you know what I mean? Like being raised in the 50s and 60s when the news coverage of America was a bit more positive. I just try to tell them that sometimes. And I'm like, you might have a little bit of a different opinion than I do, And that's kind of where we're at right now, is people don't think they're watching propaganda. And that goes both ways. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. That's on both sides of the spectrum. It's just the importance of critical thinking. And I think that's one of the cores of this movie, right? It's the independent thought alarm from The Simpsons. It doesn't matter which side of the spectrum you're on, but if you're able to think critically and analytically and question, then they're like, well, hold on. So I think there's a lot of relevance to this, to today, depressingly so.
You are warned to stand by for an important announcement at 15:30. This is news of the gravest national consequence concerning the war with Eurasia. 15:30.
The way that they use the misinformation also to just control the global narrative, because the entire thing during the movie is that they're in this constant war. They use the war we can infer that they're using the war as part of as leverage for everything that's happening. So you can always blame the war for whatever's going wrong in the country, and you can come up with like a triumph in the war whenever you want to make the government look good. And Richard Burton has a line late in the movie where he says, I think it's Burton, might be Hurt, but the line is, the war is not meant to be won. It's like, God, yeah, they're right. It's like the war against immigrants is not about immigration.
It's like, it's not meant to be won. It's meant to continue, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's a distraction. It's something to just kind of you're pointing there so you can get away with all the other stuff. It's really depressing, but I think also,
mind you, we're recording this on the day that the latest installment of the Epstein file drama is dropped, and everyone's convinced this will be the thing to take him down.
we're a little scrambled here because we hit the synopsis like 20-30 minutes into this recording, and I completely forgot that what I try to do whenever we do these episodes, the FIRFs, is to open with like, hey, this is where we are right now. And honestly, I thought that the next FIRF recording, so this one, was going to be me opening with like, hey, just so you know, there was elections in several states and Democrats won, and so that's kind of like a big deal. But instead, no, where we are now is just the latest Epstein Files drama. And talk about like the media.
Democrats did surprise in a few elections. The mayoral race in New York City was wonderful because a bunch of staunch conservatives shit their pants about it. So fuck them. But then, of course, the Dems caved to reopen the government, and so there's a lot of I don't know, just uncertainty and displeasure there. And then, today, the latest in the Epstein file drama, to where, again, the people who fit in line with what Julio and I believe to be the propaganda creators have already started moving the goalposts of, he didn't kill anybody.
This might be it, Alex. I don't know. Call me naive, call me extremely hopeful or whatever. But, just because it is... maybe we haven't lost our moral compass that much, or at least, a big majority of us haven't. And so maybe enough people draw the line at the president of the United States allegedly being a pedophile rapist. And so that could turn the tide, do you really want to take the chance of supporting a person that might end up, that could be proven guilty of that? How do you recover, So I think that in that sense, this might be a turning point. At the same time, if it wasn't, I can't tell you that I would be surprised, because America has broken my heart repeatedly over the past few years. So
I think that's an interesting thought also, just in conjunction with, the movie we're discussing here today, of there's not really an alternative being offered here. It's John Hurt just dares to question and wants something more. And that's undoubtedly how a shit ton of voters felt in the last election, because the Democratic Party, on, the surface level, yes, was offering something different. And yes, I think we'd be better off if Kamala Harris had won. But for those who dared to question and want more, there wasn't enough difference. It was just another rich politician running for office who didn't speak at all to them. And it's I could see the idea of like just the slop of gray that so many people felt the last presidential election was.
Are you saying John Hurt would be the meme of that guy that is doesn't know which button to push? You know what I'm talking about? Like,
the guy is like sweating and whatnot.
Yeah,
John Hurt would have sat out the vote. He would have been one of those. Oh, come on, they already decided who's going to win. He's not that jaded, but he would have sat out.
He would have used a distraction to escape.
Yeah.
go to Eurasia or.
Yeah. So just so we're not jumping too hard, even though they deserve the fuck out of it on the right side, I just want to say I could see some people seeing the entire political landscape with, exceptions in there, like Bernie Sanders and people who actually speak to the majority of people and not just the fucking 1%. I can see people just seeing all politics like this. I don't, but I could see, and clearly there were a ton in the last election cycle that saw it all as this just muted gray, that everything was the same.
Well, that actually takes me to my very first note. It was one of my first notes, because the movie opens with this rally where Big Brother is speaking to all his devotees, his followers, and it felt like a rally that you see. My go-to is, of course, a MAGA rally, but my thought was, well, maybe all rallies look the same if you're not part of the crowd, right? So I see people cheering and going nuts at a Trump rally, and I'm like, this is alien. Much the way that when the movie opens, I was like, these people are out of their mind. They look feral. But then I'm like, is that what they see when they see a Democratic rally?
Yeah.
Maybe. I obviously I am biased, and I don't go looking. It's not like I go looking for footage of either of those, right? But whenever I run into footage from Democratic rallies, they seem pretty like almost like square.
Yeah.
And then you have a figure like Mandani, the newly elected New York mayor, and he just seems like fun.
I did love I can't remember who it was. Some interviewer or a journalist asked Bernie Sanders, like, should more Democrats embrace being democratic socialists after Magdani's victory? And he goes, well, then we'll have to get the book out to find out what actually being a democratic socialist means. Anyway, and then he moves on to his next point.
Bernie rocks.
Oh yeah.
So that was a thought, because I agree. I can't help but focus on the right, for one, because the right has all the power right now in the country, and they're fucking everybody else over. But second, most of the things that they choose to platform on are things that I either disagree with on a basic level or just completely abhor, and I just think are just evil, to put it plainly. But I know that there are things that, my side of the aisle, like the Democrats, there are things that there are people on the other side that they find repugnant, right? If you're okay with abortion, then, a Republican is going to have a really, like the average Republican, not somebody with an agenda, is going to have a hard time accepting that. And maybe they see, people protesting or trying to defend Planned Parenthood, and to them, we look like the people in the opening of 1984.
Yep.
So that divide, I mean, it's always going to exist unless you find a way to get past that and try to live together.
Yeah.
There is a cancer, an evil tumor, growing, spreading in our midst. Shout! Shout! Shout out his name!
Last question about like the political landscape. The left would be way more open to like discussion about a movie like this than the right, though, wouldn't you think?
Yes, I would like to think so. But I don't know. I mean, look, being candid, it's funny because, once you get past...
Is there too much room for interpretation?
Like, I don't think that you could... I would think that if you were a decent human being, it would be easy, regardless of where you fall in the political spectrum. How could you watch this movie and say, like, well, they're blowing out of proportion, right? I think that what most people would say is like, oh, but it's not us, it's the other guys that would do something like this, or that are doing something like this. And then we know, no, actually, both of you do. I think that it's politics and politicians in general, they will engage in that, into this. I just happen to find... maybe that's the problem, or maybe that's an issue, right? I happen to find some of the Democratic propaganda a lot more palatable. Whereas like the right wing propaganda just repulses me right away. Either way, you should be just making your own decisions. Yeah,
that's important though that we call that out in case anyone who is more right leaning than we are is listening to this. We know there's stuff that we're fed that we're like lapping up, like, yeah, let's go. So it's we're not unaware. It's just seems like vitriol is not something that we use as, motivation to go after others, Julio.
I'll tell you this, and maybe this is something that will come up again if we do one of those movies that's about Democrats fighting Democrats. But the thing is, I can rage against the Republican talking points, and I can also rage against the Democratic talking points that drive me nuts. Mm-hmm. But the priority is the Republican talking points, because like I said, they control the country right now. When it gets to the point where we have a Democratic president and a Democratic majority in Congress and the Senate, then I'll be a pain in their ass. But right now, it's like, what is the point? Those guys are like barely making it. So
yeah.
I need to focus on the guys that are screwing our lives right now. So anyway, bring it back to 1984, Alex. Something that came up, you brought it up, or it came to mind while I was watching it too, and you just reminded me. Just the idea of, as we're talking, becoming aware of how susceptible you are to propaganda, we are to propaganda, and all that stuff. And I think that is something that actually this movie does. One of the themes that maybe I didn't pick up on the first time I watched it, and that's the need to become aware that everybody has a breaking point. If you're human, you have a breaking point, and you may not want to think about it, but hopefully at least you know that it's there. Because you watch something like this, you watch a sequence like the one where John Hurt is getting tortured, or you watch one of those in a different movie, and I think that most people would think, okay, well, when would I break? Or if you're delusional, you're like, oh, I would never break. And the point is, at some point you do, because that's, you're not superhuman. I don't know, Alex, maybe I'm wrong. Do you think that you wouldn't cave? Would you just rather die than succumb to Richard Burton's torture?
Oh, no, I'm a pussy, dude. There's no way. I would just be like, all right, fine. Just, I would find some, let me have my fucking SummerSlam 23 Blu-ray, or SummerSlam 2013 Blu-ray, I should say.
Just take the rats away, please.
Take the rats. Fuck wrestling. I'll just say, let me keep my Criterions and we'll call it a day. All right.
You can take the Godards if you want to.
You can take the Godards. Let me have Wally. Let me have Inside Llewyn Davis. Let me have A Night to Remember. Blue is the warmest color. We can edit out that one scene. All right. And let me just keep the movie and we'll be all right. There is this movie too talks about the eradication of the orgasm as to like basically crush the human spirit. And
talk about torture.
Yeah. Ever since someone had their first nut, that whether people admit it or not, that's what they chase is their next nut. Like there's that whole thing of like, why did man invent fire? Keep his girlfriend. Yeah, exactly. To keep his girlfriend warm so he could, make a move on her. Why did he invent the wheel? So he had somewhere to take his girl, that type of thing. So
that's the biggest tell that they are the bad guys. They want to get rid of sex.
That's how, again, we're just going down all kinds of rabbit holes. That's a way that a lot of religions try to control free will, is dictating, what you can do with your body and what you can't do. I know myself, Julio, from basically the age of 16 till I was, 34, when I just started getting lazy. That was like my main motivating factor in life was, all right, I got to find this now. So
tough out there for a single man.
Yeah, I had it real bad. So anyway.
Well, that is an aspect that I think probably doesn't come up often when it comes to 1984, or at least it's not part of the first barrage of thoughts, right? That this is a very pro-sex movie in the sense that it seems to recognize that sex brings joy to people, and part of breaking people down is taking away the desire to have sex. I think that's what the movie's arguing, right? And that's why it's so important, so iconic in a way, that you have all this nudity once John Hurt and Suzanne Hamilton start hooking up, right? There is, you get full frontal, and there's no artifice, right? There's no like Austin Powers trickery where like the lamp is covering stuff or anything. It's just,
I thought you'd be like, there's no merkins being used. I was like, well, I don't know about that. But,
no, that there is. It's just shot very plainly, and I think it just underscores, one, how vulnerable they are. You are at your most vulnerable when you're naked. And of course, they're naked when they get captured, which is god awful. But then it's also, there's a freedom to be naked with someone you love after or before you've had sex. And that is something that this regime in 1984 is definitely working on getting rid of. And so I find that refreshing, because there's so many movies that would, you cannot tell the story a different way, where you portray sex as a bad thing. Like sex is the one, like anything in excess, it can be bad. It would be bad. So I'm a sucker for like a movie that defends sex, something healthy, something worth cherishing. In this movie, as bleak as it is, it recognizes that. It doesn't just keep the relationship between John Hurt and Suzanne Hamilton as a platonic thing or something that might be carnal, but we don't see it. No, this is just, it's part of the relationship. It's there, and it's something else that gets taken away by the people in charge. So that's powerful. I think that adds to humanity. I agree with you that there's not a whole lot to relate to in these characters, as far as like, oh, I'm going to follow their character arc, or I'm going to connect to like their likes and their dislikes. But if nothing else, Alex, I think that I can appreciate that these two like sex, and they like sex with each other, and then they lose that, or at least they seem to lose that by the end of the movie. That's a shame.
Do you like doing this? I don't mean just me.
I adore it.
As we kind of wind down here, one thing I did want to call out specifically, if I can wrangle my tabs in here. The best scene in the movie, to me, is upon the initial capture of Winston, John Hurt, he's put in a holding cell, and then they throw in Parsons, who is his neighbor and his coworker, and a guy who just is fine with like the life and just kind of accepts what he's told, and he's really excited about they're gonna raise the amount of like chocolate you can have and whatnot. He is played by a gentleman named Gregor Fisher, who I had to look up because obviously I was not familiar. He was a comedian. He was a Scottish comedian, and this is to me the best acted scene of this movie because as soon as he gets in there, he just immediately breaks down and he talks about thought crime. I think he uses the word insidious to describe it, and just talks about how once it has you, you can't let go of it. It's basically the idea of, once free will gets in your system, you can't get rid of it. And he just begs these guards and, Big Brother and all these people to just like, I'll do whatever you want. I'll say whatever you want. He just wants to go back to where he was before. And he's just like, but he can't. And they know that. And that's the only scene that's the last time we see him. He's taken away by these guards and God knows what happens to him. That scene is so real and so powerful. That was the most engaged I was in the entire movie just because Mr. Fisher's performance in that one scene. So I just wanted to give that props. I thought that was the highlight of the movie cinematically for me.
My daughter found it out. Very proud of her. Very grateful I've been discovered before it's too late.
That scene's really good. I am surprised though, because I would think that anybody that watches 1984 would highlight or would call the torture scene, the extended torture scene of John Hurt as the highlight. But I get it, Alex. You're alternative. You go against the grain.
I'm
sometimes.
A contrarian after all.
Yes, you are. No, I think that scene is powerful. I would, if I had to call the high point of the movie, it is the torture scene, mainly because I've seen it done so many times badly. And I mentioned it on my Letterboxd review the first time I watched this, that many times when you get into these sort of sequences where you have a bad guy in control and then they start talking and they have these monologues and they go on forever, and you can sense that the actor is showing off, the screenwriter is showing off, the director is showing off. And I don't get that at all here. Burton is so low key and yet still very powerful in the way that he delivers all his lines. It's even worse because he's showing so little emotion and he's speaking like so matter of factly that all this bullshit that he keeps telling John Hurt, it hits even harder. It's just like there is no hope because this guy is not giving you anything. And contrast with John Hurt's performance, the guy is just dying there. I mean, he's just going for it and crying and in pain. It's brutal, and so it's very effective. And I could be wrong. I know I meant to do the research the first time I watched it, and I didn't. And now, of course, I forgot to do it again. But there's a Star Trek Next Generation episode where Captain Picard is captured by an alien race, and they try to break him in captivity. And what is it? There's 3 lights. There's 4 lights, but they keep telling him that there's only 3 lights. And it's a meme. You can probably look it up. Captain Picard 3 lights or 4 lights. And here, they show him. It has to be inspired by this, where Burton keeps showing him 4 fingers, showing John Hurt 4 fingers, and he wants him to tell it's 5. But no matter what Hurt says, he still gets punished. Yeah, which is just that's how they break you, right? Like this. So
he says, "I don't know," and he says, "Better." Yeah.
But then he still fucks with him, and gives him the electroshock therapy and all that stuff. It's sad, and I think that's also just because that sequence takes me to that point of asking, okay, would I break? Of course I would. How long would I last? And then if I break, once you acknowledge that you can break, you have to know that everybody could break, which means that you should be a little more forgiving of those who break, and once you know that everybody has a breaking point, maybe that helps you understand why some people do the things they do and then regret them. I don't know. I mean, I am not a good enough person to live by that motto, but I can at least think of it and hope that I can be that understanding in the future. But that was my thought, right? Like they get you by breaking you. Once they get you to renounce the things that you love most, that's when you're completely at your weakest. And that's what they do to John Hurt here. They get him to give up Julia. What is it? He basically tells him, yeah, whatever you're going to do to me, just do to Julia. Just please stop.
Yeah.
It's like, that is like rock bottom. And I think that a younger me would resent him for that, for breaking that way and breaking that harshly. But I'm older now, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it would only be a matter of time. Maybe the rats wouldn't break me, but something would break me at some point.
Do it to Julia! Do it to Julia! Not me!
One last thing, Alex. The language that they use here, did it throw you off? Did it annoy you? Or you were like, oh, that's kind of cool that they have their own words?
I thought it fit in with the tone of the story, so it certainly didn't bother me.
Yeah, I thought it would be more confusing. I think I felt it was more confusing the first time I watched it. I thought I'd written more of them, but yeah, it's just like thought crime, and I have double plus good.
Double plus good, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, when they're excited about something. It's a fascinating idea, which I guess doesn't get explored that much. Maybe doesn't need to be explored that much, but just the another way that the government controls the narrative and controls people is by controlling language. Right? They're on their 10th edition, or the 10th edition of the dictionary is about to come out. And eventually, it sounds like their plan is getting rid of the written word completely. You know, just completely doing away with literacy in a way, or changing the way the literacy works. It's just another thing that, yeah, I don't want to push it, but you know how like Trump either instinctively or because he this is one thing he knows, right? I think he understands the power of words, like the power of a good nickname. And so that when they don't stick, that's the best thing, right? When he tries and they don't work.
Yeah.
But you know, how many of those that work have actually helped him so much, you know, to be able to capture something in one word and simplify it for people, simplify the concept for people so that it's easier to manipulate them. And I know it's kind of like, it's a long shot from what we see here to this fucking idiot and his rallies, but still, you know, I was thinking of that. I was like, once you're getting to the point where you're creating your own language, your own words, and you're having people accept it blindly, then you know that you're wielding a very specific type of power. So beware of those who come up with their own bullshit language.
Keep an eye out.
It's not double plus good. Defend classic English, please.
It's an encouraging thought that by 2050, not a single person will be able to have a conversation like this.
Except the pros.
The proletariat don't count for animals.
All right. Well, Alex, I think we've reached that point where we just boil it all down to a score. What are you giving 1984?
Oh, man. Oh, there's some good stuff. Like a C+, I think. There's some good stuff in it, but this is like a 3-star affair for me. I was complimentary of the things I enjoyed. It's a very effective movie. It's powerful, but there were long stretches of it where I was bored, and like, it goes back to what you said, though. There were parts where I was like, all right, I get it. But the movie, I think, wants you to get it and wants to show it in painstaking detail. And I have seen movies before. Hunger, I talked about, I'm very high on that movie, where that works for me. It just didn't work for me that way here. So this is like a C+, 3 stars. I can't in good conscience just be enthusiastic about recommending it. I agree with you. It would take a discussion. Mine would probably start with, well, if you haven't seen this movie, you should probably watch it beforehand. Have you seen the Before trilogy? Maybe watch those 3 movies before you watch this.
And if the ending of Before Midnight is too much for you, then you might not be ready for
avoid
1984. Yeah. I gave 1984 4 stars the first time I watched it. I think I'm going to stick with 4 stars again. Those lulls, they were a lot easier to handle this time around. I think that maybe knowing where everything ended and how badly in a way, the movie having taken away my hope of a happy ending or even an okay ending the first time around, this time I was just able to suck in the despair, knowing that there's no salvation at the end, which is why I was kind of surprised when we got to the final shot. I was like, oh, that's right. Maybe there is a little bit of hope. Maybe I'm also less concerned about the pacing and the dead space because I'm not going to watch this movie ever again.
Fair point.
Yeah, I'm going to watch the special features, the supplements on the on the Criterion. There's interviews with Michael Radford and Roger Deakins, the cinematographer, some behind the scenes stuff, and apparently there's an alternate score. So
nice.
It's stuff that I can just kind of have playing in the background and not really, without really putting myself through the ringer again.
Yeah.
But yeah, 4 stars. I think I'm probably about as likely to watch this again as I would Il Postino. I'll watch Kevin Costner's The Postman before I do that. Well, that was 1984. Alex, Big Brother is watching.
We'll see if this actually makes it to the airwaves this episode.
Yeah. We're going to be a little more lighthearted on the next installment of FIRF. Fresh Immigrants, Run Fascists. I'm going to go back to the immigrant side. Dear listeners, I was nervous bringing this up to Alex, but he was very open-minded about it. And so the next 2 episodes are going to be musical episodes. You can probably guess which one is going to be the fascist musical episode, but if you don't, well, you're going to have to wait till next episode for that reveal. But on the next episode of FIRF, In the Heights, the Lin-Manuel Miranda musical that he did it on stage, and then after the success of Hamilton, he was able to get a movie made of In the Heights. And it stars one of the guys from Hamilton, which of course I don't remember his name now, Anthony Ramos. That's I couldn't remember. I was like, he's in Twisters. Anthony Ramos is the main guy. Melissa Barrera, you know her from the new Scream movies. So,
Oh, do I?
Yes. Our boy, Corey Hawkins from The Last Voyage of the Demeter is in it. And of course, the big name, Jimmy Smits.
Oh, baby.
Uncle Owen. No, he's not Uncle Owen. He is Leia's dad. He's or stepdad.
Correct. Yeah.
Organa. What's his name? Whatever. You know him from the Star Wars prequels.
Correct.
Jimmy Smits.
Good morning, Usnavi. Pan caliente, café con leche. Put $20 on today's lottery. Okay, must be a lucky day. Gotta be.
So watching The Heights, get ready for that. It's a lot more happy and positive than 1984. So, it's a good balance. Thank you, as always, to Zoe and Corey for their work in social media and the behind-the-scenes stuff. Thank you to Jordan Cooper for the awesome intro and outro. You can check out his work at jordancooper.com. You can check out his band, Troubles Afoot, on Bandcamp. Alex, thank you for enduring this movie. I think that it led to a very interesting conversation.
Oh, yeah. This is a fun convo. It's a bit different than what we usually do. So, yeah, it was good stuff.
And now we don't have to watch it ever again. So,
correct.
Win-win.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again soon.
Take care, y'all.